but it's not staged. And I could see as a client, I don't want to see that house just because the way it's represented on MLS. For me, what I think about is if they didn't put the effort into getting this house ready for the market, what's hiding behind the walls in that house? Did they actually take care of this house?
Welcome to Supply and Demand with Adam Nadler. This is a podcast dedicated to the real estate market in Canada, available now on YouTube, Apple Music, and Spotify. Okay, so today we got Sima. She is the owner of Agent's Choice Staging. And this is like one of those things that I feel like is important to talk about because it's kind of just an assumption on HGTV that everything needs to be staged to the nines always, and there's no kind of holds bar on things, and you just kind of like you always got to like remove, like empty out your house, make it into a museum, and then kind of like that's how you're gonna achieve an amazing sale price. And so I wanted to have you on because you're a very experienced stager. You've been doing this for a long time. You're actually sitting in your warehouse right now with all of your stuff. And so I wanted to kind of ask you, like, how did you start your business? What do you do and how do you do it? What's your process like?
Okay, well, how did I start my business? So how it started was from my mother's basement. I had two condos and I was selling them, and my real estate agent at the time came over and said, "Wow, your was actually came by with a stager and was like, wow, your place looks really good. You really don't need any staging. You should really consider getting into staging." At the time, I was working as a social worker for the child welfare sector, and I literally just gradually started just to buy some accessories to the point where I have a 5,000 square feet warehouse with full of furniture and accessories. And I gradually just started building clients to the point where I was comfortable to leave my social work career and have been doing this now full time for the past 6 years. Um, why do we stage? So I truly believe in staging. I believe that it works. I've seen pictures online of, of houses that are beautiful, but it's not staged. And I could see as a client, I don't want to see that house just because the way it's represented on MLS. For me, what I think about is if they didn't put the effort into getting this house ready for the market, what's hiding behind the walls in that house? Did they actually take care of this house? The process is typically, I go in, I'm looking at a perspective of potential buyers. I don't want to go in and see the seller's personal taste. I want to be able to envision myself in the home with my own furniture and my own family. So that's why I always say when we walk in, our number one goal is to depersonalize the space. So we remove all family photos, we remove anything that represents the client itself, and we say, we need to really make the space look good for a mass audience.
What does
There
that
are
mean? What does that mean to you?
really just neutralize the space. So, you walk in, like, for example, if I walk into my mother's house, she's going to have Persian carpets everywhere. She's going to have all different color walls. So I say, you know what, if I walk into a house and every room is a different paint color, I say, you know what, no, let's just paint the entire house one color because buyers love consistency. They just want to walk in for it to be nice and simple and for the furniture to be exactly where it's meant to be. Sometimes you walk in and, for example, I had a house a couple of weeks ago. It's a beautiful $2.7 million house in Kleinburg, but they had a pool table in the dining room. That's for the client. If you leave the pool table in the dining room and a potential buyer walks in, they're not going to be able to see past that. They're going to be like, well, where does the dining table go? Because they're seeing is this massive pool table. So we need to make the space look what it's meant to be. So a dining room has to be a dining room. A family needs to be a family room. A kitchen table needs to be where a kitchen table goes. So make it look good where a whole group of people will like it, as opposed to just a certain group of people.
So all of that, I guess, seems to be almost like common sense, but what would you say are like the most common misconceptions about staging a home for sale?
The most common misconception is if you leave your home as it is, that people are going to be able to walk in and see themselves in that home. That's only 10% of the buyers are able to see that. So if you get a listing and you leave it the way it is, either vacant or occupied, only 10% of people are able to walk in and be like, okay, yeah, I can see myself in there. The rest can't. So on typical, I think the stats show that within 12 to 15 seconds, people are going to decide whether or not they want to make an offer. So when you walk in, you need to give your clients the wow factor. Another misconception is that we're not interior designers, we're stagers. An interior designer has a big, massive budget, is working with the client's specific needs. A stager has a certain budget and is working with the inventory that they have to make your space look good, like I said, for a mass audience. So, a lot of people, when we go into homes, a lot of clients are like, well, I want this here, that here, but no, that's your own personal taste. And so there has to be a difference for us to say, no, we're not interior designers, we're stagers, we're just here to showcase the space. And we don't just go put anything everywhere. We only put stuff where it needs to be, because if you put too much, again, the clients are going to get distracted about what the house is actually meant to be.
So, in terms of knowing what to stage in what room and what not to stage in a certain room, how do you make that value judgment and make that call in real time when you're walking through a house to say, hey, either we should stage this room or we shouldn't stage this room, or for an entire house, how do you make that judgment call? Because you were doing a consultation for me last week where you basically told me this is not a house you should even stage. Like, that was a very honest and value judgment call made on the spot based on experience. But how do you make that judgment call?
So I think that one, I guess the most important thing for me is being transparent with my clients. I'm not here to, for example, work with one client, the end, take the money and run away. I'm here to build relationships. So example, we saw that house together and I said, it's just going to be a waste of money for you to stage this house. There's no point. The house is old. It needs work. The best thing you can do is to completely empty out the house and put it for the market. There are some houses where they're old, but I still say, let's stage it because it is livable. I always say the most important parts of the house to stage is the main floor and the primary bedroom. Now that changes within the area of where the house is located. So if you have your house in Richmond Hill where there's a big main floor, there's a lot of bedrooms, there's a big basement. Okay, main floor, the primary bedroom is good enough. You have a house at Mount Pleasant in Midtown, the main floor, typically what I've noticed, is not that big. So I always suggest for those houses, let's do the basement as well if it is finished, because people will be using the basement as a family hangout area or whatever it is. Because the area on the main floor is so small, you need to show your potential clients or buyers that the basement is also livable. So I say make the investment into the basement as well. But if we go to Richmond Hill or Markham or Mississauga, I always say don't even waste your money on the basement. It's not important. Let's focus on the main floor and one of the bedrooms upstairs.
Now, in terms of the actual staging furniture, is staging furniture different than regular furniture? And if so, in what ways is it different?
No, it's actually, so I have trades account with wholesalers. A lot of stuff that I use in my inventory, you'll see on Wayfair, you'll see on CB2. I just go directly to the wholesaler. How it might be a little bit different, I don't buy inventory for specific taste. I try to buy inventory that I can use everywhere. So I buy a lot of neutral couches. I buy a lot of coffee tables that are glass or wood. I don't buy anything that's like to a specific demographic. I try to buy things that can use over and over again. But no, it's basically the same people, but I just go directly to the wholesalers.
But is it like smaller furniture? Because I'm sure you're not bringing in lazy boys and things like that.
No, no, no. Yeah. So I don't have any big leather couches or recliners. I have an inventory for condos because I feel like with the condos, the elevators are getting smaller, the hallways are getting smaller, the ceilings are not that high. So I have to, for example, get couches that are less than 79 inches in width. So these are things we got to consider for condos. I'm not really putting any bulky furniture in any of my listings. Sometimes we get these custom homes in Forest Hill where we're putting bigger couches and bigger accent chairs, but I never put bulky furniture because I don't feel like that would photograph well and it wouldn't show the space well. So just clean lines.
Clean line. So in terms of the people who are now living with your furniture,
Yeah.
what are some of the craziest, things that you've seen happen where you get your furniture back and you're like, what happened here?
So I actually had to make up like a kind of a sheets to leave for clients for stagings that we do for occupied listings, what to do and what not to do. So for example, we put nice white crisp towels in every bathroom. Well, we just had a whole set of towels come back with makeup all over it because the homeowners were using it. We had carpets of peace where they had pets and dogs, their pets had peed on it. So these are things that we do consider. Most of the times I'll be like, okay, you know what, it's a towel, I'll wash it. But if it's to the extreme, I have to kind of go back to the client and be like, hey, what happened? But luckily not like that has been very isolated. For the most part, people are very respectful of our inventory. When we do the beds, they put our pillows and our comforters away and they use their own stuff at night to sleep and put ours back for showings. But there, and in every business, you're gonna have, stuff happen. So I expect it, but luckily it hasn't been that often.
The one thing, I guess this is kind of like a funny question, but the one thing that I always noticed is when staging, there's like always books that are
Yeah.
kind of just like placed on coffee tables or like a cookbook that's kind of just like placed on a kitchen counter. Like, how do you choose those? Because those seem to be sometimes pretty eclectic and sometimes kind of basic.
We have a lot of Tom Ford books that are super expensive. They really are statement pieces and they really change the look of the house. One thing that I believe with staging, I can put a nice couch and I can put a nice dining table, but it's all about how we accessorize the space. That's what's going to make the space stand out, the type of accessories that I put in the space. So that Tom Ford book on that coffee table is really going to stand out. That cookbook that we put by the stove in the kitchen kind of makes it feel homey. Like, yeah, so and so is in the kitchen, they're cooking, they're cleaning, whatever it is, it makes it feel very homey. So it's just, I don't really have like a certain amount that, this is going to go here. We just have these beautiful coffee books and bunch of, cookbooks that we try to take as much as we can to the listing. But again, it's the accessories that really make the space stand out.
In terms of timing, I think a lot of people kind of misread the amount of work that goes into this. Um, how long does it take, let's say, for an average home in Richmond Hill or Vaughan? If you were to go in there with your people and stage it, how much notice do you need? How long is it going to take? How many people are you bringing in to do the job? What does that look like? What is the breadth of scope on something like that?
Well, we have some agents like yourself who are super organized and like to really, for example, we go see it. You give us a lot of time, which is awesome. But some people don't realize it's not just about me showing up and staging the place. I have to have my movers, I have to have my truck, I have to have my staff, and I have to have the inventory, right? So, we go in for a consult. Like, for example, right after we're done, I'm going to Ajax to see a place, and they've already said we need a stage on May 30th. So it's typically what I say is let us go see it and give us 5 business days to start planning. Because like I said, it's not just about me showing up. I make sure to hire movers that are going to value the home that we're going to. I've had situations where I've had to get a different moving company last minute and they've damaged walls, they've done certain things to the space, they didn't care. But I make sure that I have a staff that actually, is walking into the home thinking they actually live there, so they take care of the space. So the more notice, the better. But I understand in real estate, things are fast. You're getting that listing, you're getting it painted, you're getting it clean, and you want to stage and on the market right away. So typically we say give us about 5 business days to get it going. But yeah, that's the minimum amount of time you should be giving us because again, there's a lot of factors that go into getting ready for a staging.
And on staging day, what does that look like?
So for example, we just had a staging this morning. So we got here at 6 a.m. Myself and my two assistants, Karen and Lauren, we put all the inventory aside. We packed like the floor lamps, we packed the night table, towels, bedding for 5 bedrooms. And then at 9 a.m., the movers come, we load the truck. It takes us about an hour and a half or so to load the truck, and then they're out the door. We ask for a house, so it's a 5 bedroom house. We ask about 6 to 7 hours for us to stage it. Nobody to be in the house. No, if people are living there, we ask for them to leave. No pets in the house because the front door is always open. So I can't be responsible for your dog or cat running outside. And then when we leave, we make sure that we steam all the beds, we steam the towels, because typically what happens right after we're done, the following day you're doing photos. So it takes the entire day for us to get this job done, just because we really want to make sure that it looks perfect. So we say give us about 6 to 7 hours.
So I guess a bit of organized chaos.
It's crazy. It's crazy. We're yelling at each other. We're like, "Did you get that lamp? Did you get that night table?" So yeah, it's kind of nutty, and it's even nuttier when we're in the house, because you got to remember we're moving in an entire house. If you ever think about yourself moving, it's one of the biggest stressors of life is divorce, financial difficulties, and moving. So we're literally moving 5 to 6 times a week. So all you got to think about is, how does it look when I'm moving myself? That's a lot of work. Like, I got to make sure everything is packed in boxes. We are doing this all in one day and setting up the house, putting artwork up in all one day. So, when you have an agent where it says I'm booking the photos the same day, I'm like, oh God, no, don't do that, because God forbid we have a flat tire or something, we're going to be running behind. So we ask for the entire day typically.
Wow.
Yeah, it's a lot.
It sounds like a lot, but
Yeah.
you definitely do a really amazing job at it, and I've always been super impressed with how quickly, efficiently you get things ready, so that when I have my photographer, videographer go in, it's picture perfect, ready to go. We don't need to worry about anything. Um, in terms of people doing what they can to help themselves prepare for what is coming when you're about to kind of roll up with your truck. What can someone do in order to kind of prepare themselves for your arrival?
So, when we go into a consult and within 24 hours, you get a full report of our suggestions as to what needs to be removed. Just follow that report to the T. It's room by room, front entrance, living room, bathrooms. If you just do everything on that report, things are going to move efficiently. We have situations when that doesn't happen, and we come together as a team and we help while we're there to move things around. But if you just follow our consultation report and get everything done for the actual staging date, then it's all good.
Talk to me a bit about tenanted properties and what it's like staging for those.
So when I think about tenants and properties, and I did a presentation for another brokerage about tenants and properties, you really need to put the tenant first. You have to think about the tenant basically being your seller. They're the ones that are going to make this process either easy for you or difficult. So, for example, just the little things. When you're making an appointment to go see a tenant as an agent or as a stager, we shouldn't be telling them, hey, these are the days that I'm available. We should be asking them what is their availability, to make them feel important, to make them that they have the power in this and some decision making, because this can't be easy for them. Can you imagine living in a place and you're going to have a random people just come into your place and see the place and even stage it? So you got to really make the process for them as easy as possible. A couple of things that I do suggest is, giving the tenant maybe like a $50 gift card to Starbucks for the day of staging, so they can go to Starbucks or wherever, do some work at Starbucks while we're there. Have them be part of the meetings, start group chats with them, and have them be part of the group chat with the stager, with yourself, with the seller. And give them plenty of notice. Give them, an outline of what things are going to look like for them. A lot Most of the time the tenant is staging, we don't take big pieces of furniture, we accessorize. So what by accessorizing, I mean there are no movers involved. You have two of my stagers and you have a cargo van. So you get bedding, you get a rug, you get accessories, you get towels, you get artwork. And that's all you get. Most of the times the tenants have been pretty good with us and they love the outcome of how the place looks. Some tenants, they're no matter what you do, they're not going to agree to it. So another thing I suggest that you do is you have them, step out, go get a coffee for 3, 4 hours. We come in, we accessorize the place, you have your photos happen, and then we remove our stuff. So it looks good for pictures. But the most important thing is for them to feel like they're part of the process and you're not just throwing a bunch of things at them.
Most of your company is called Agent's Choice Staging.
Right.
So your clients are, well, for lack of a better way of describing it, people like me.
Yes.
How did you build those relationships? How did that come to be? And how do you interact with agents in general?
All word of mouth. All word of mouth. And mostly it was social media. There's been no like, there's been no Google advertising. And I always, my vision for the business has been like all I wanted to build a business built on relationships. So, for example, Adam, the house that we saw together, I could have walked in and be like, yeah, yeah, let's stage it. Why not? It's going to look better. But I had to be honest with you. I don't want you spending money that you don't need to. So, it's always been for me that I want some type of transparency with my clients. And, I always say, I'm not the best stager. There are a lot of staging companies that are much better than me, but what's important to me is building relationships with my agents and maintaining those relationships. So being honest with them, delivering and understanding that you guys are on a strict timeline. So making it happen for you guys. If you need me to go see a house and tomorrow, I got to make this happen for you because you're selling one of the biggest assets of people's lives. So I understand what an important job you have. But my important thing is, the agent's calling me on a Sunday, I'm answering on a Sunday. This is not a 9 to 5 job. This is 7 days a week, evenings, days, whatever it is. But my most important motto and what I tell my team is we got to make sure our agents are happy because we're a reflection of them. If we go into a home and our shoes are dirty and we're leaving fingerprints on glass tables, how is that going to look on you who's hired me to work for you? We're all a team and we all need to represent each other well. So making sure that, we're doing the jobs as best as we can and maintaining our relationships with our agents.
One thing that I really like to kind of ask people, especially when I'm interviewing people who are high performing business owners, entrepreneurs, things like that, is I like to ask them about their schedule and how they kind of take care of their business while they're taking care of themselves. And I always find that interesting because I find that most people who are high performing individuals adhere to a very strict kind of schedule, regimen, guideline when it comes to going to sleep, waking up in the morning, what they're eating throughout the day, when and how they relax to kind of offset the organized chaos that is their daily business. And so, what does that look like for you?
I'm in bed by 9 p.m. I have 3 dogs. I rescued a couple of dogs and I'm up every day at 5:30 a.m. So 5:30 a.m. that's my wake up call. Even if I don't have the alarm, I'm up at 5:30. The first thing I do is I grab my coffee, I put CP24 on, I watch a news, and then I walk my dogs and I'm at the gym by 7:30 a.m. So, and that working out in the morning is a must for me because when I find out that I don't work out, even though this job is so much exercise, we're up and downstairs, we're carrying bins, it's more for my mental health. I'm more relaxed when I get a workout out of the way in the morning. I'm more, attentive. When I don't, my ADHD goes off. I'm trying to do 1,000 things at once and it doesn't work. So making sure that goes into, my daily routine and also doing things with my staff. They make this possible for me. If it wasn't for them, I wouldn't be able to do this business. So, we have team building days. So, for example, on June the 9th, we're all going to the spa. At the spa all day, we're going to be talking about what's working well, what's not working well. How can we improve? On a scale of 0 to 10, what would you say is, how happy are you at this job? So are you a 5 out of 10? What needs to happen for us to get to 7 out of 10? So a lot of the feedback and how I make my business grow is putting my staff first. And when they're doing a good job, I'm more relaxed. I'm able to, have this podcast that I'm doing with you, I'm able to go out and meet new clients. So, once I put their well-being first and their mental health first, and I put mine too, it comes together at the end. But sleeping, eating right, and getting up early in the morning are key for me.
Well, that seems to be the trend, and I definitely abide by that as well. And it really helps to regulate for myself as well, just regulate my mood when people are enormously stressed and they're going through a tough time and you're that person who has to guide them through that tough time. Then you yourself have to be emotionally anchored and um, making sure that um, self-care is happening and that it's happening in a structured and reliable way, I think is really important. It's just one thing that I love asking people about because everyone does it a little bit differently, but there seems to definitely be a lot of trends between different people that I find very interesting. In fact, actually, my broker of record, she's an incredible lady. She's running the biggest Royal LePage in the country with almost, I think it was like 1,800 agents or something crazy like this. She actually just wrote a book
Oh,
about
wow.
this very thing, and it's really interesting. So, yeah, I mean, thank you so much for making the time to come and talk and kind of be on the podcast. And so I really appreciate it. And we'll hopefully get this thing out soon. But is there anything before we sign off that you'd like to kind of like send out as a message to anybody who's listening right now?
Honestly, let's, just keep us in the know. Like if you're going to a house and you know that, things are going to be delayed, just include us in that conversation. I find that what really works is everybody being on a group chat together for whatever listing, and everybody's on the same page where, we know what the schedule is like. But the more communication, the better results I find.
Communication, people. You heard it here first. Thank you so much, Sima,
My
for your
pleasure.
time today. And yeah, me and you will definitely be in touch on our
Thank
future
you.
projects.
Thank you. Talk soon.
If you like that video, click the subscribe button on the right, or feel free to enjoy another video here on the left.